Today on the podcast, we're going to do the battle of the brokerages. eXp Realty versus Real Brokerage. Let's break things down and maybe help you make a decision. Which one is going to be better for you and your business? Let's dive in.
You're listening to the Girl Get Your Face Off a Bus Bench podcast, where we invite you to check your ego at the app, grab a cup of coffee, and get ready to dive into all things real estate marketing, social media, friendship, hardship, love, money mindset, and all the things that celebrate you as a badass boss babe.
We're here to encourage you, show up for you, give you a loving kick in the pants when you need it most, and be your soft place to land on the hardest of days. So pull up a seat at our table and get ready to be inspired and start living your best life by design.
Welcome to the Girl Get Your Face Off a Bus Bench podcast. We are so excited you're here.
Okay, girls, let's dive in. Hey, Bus Bench babes. Beth here doing a solo episode and talking all about eXp versus Real. I feel like they are two of the hottest brokerages right now, and they kind of go head to head in a lot of competition on things. And let's just kind of talk about some different nuances and different things. And how do you pick one that works better for you than another? How does that all work? So let's back things up a little bit. I'll tell you my story. I was originally licensed in 1997 when I lived in Tampa, and I worked for Prudential Tropical Realty. Prudential was a huge player in the real estate game back in the day. And it was fabulous. I was not an extremely successful agent. I was more of a part-time agent. But the connections and sort of I got a lot of foundational things that put into play back in the day there. Fast forward, moved back to Minneapolis, where I'm from, and actually worked at my family's mortgage company. My aunt and uncle owned a mortgage brokerage, and that was sort of in the height before the market crash, 07, 08. But I moved back here in 01, and really, so for 01 until the market crashed, crushed it in mortgages and just really loved that. But at the same time was I really want to get my real estate license. So I got licensed in Minnesota and hung my license with a little boutique brokerage in the Twin Cities that no longer exists. And it was a great way for me to work with some of my mortgage clients that also wanted to buy and sell homes. And so mortgage was my main paycheck, and then real estate was sort of a side gig up until the market crashed. And after the market crashed, I took a hiatus. It was a lot. It was horrible sitting at the closing table, and you are literally put through the ringer. I felt like I'd been through the ringer, and I was just hanging on the clothesline oh my God, we made it to the finish line. But then, I had poured my heart and soul into the transaction, and you're just trying to get people out of bad situations. So sellers were feeling like they're getting screwed, and the banks and the whole mortgage and real estate industry was screwing them over. Buyers were sitting at the closing table wishing they had gotten a better deal. And the whole joy that you experience in real estate, one of the main reasons why I wanted to get into real estate was to serve and have these happy moments. There was not a whole lot of that. It was pretty bleak and dreary back in those days. So I'm I need to wave the flag. I'm time out. I need to get off this ship. This is horrible. It was emotionally, financially, a sinking ship. It was terrible. So I pivoted my career for a while and went into private home care nursing and did elderly care, and old people are really my jam. I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast, but I love old people. I love their stories. I love their quirks, and old guys love me. It's one of my superpowers. So a lot of people do not have patience for old people. Give me an old person all day long. I will sit for hours and talk about their life and their history with them, because to me, it's so fascinating. And I want to be that person that somebody takes good care of me when I get older. So I really try to invest into old people because they're so fun and interesting, and they're usually like crazy and tell the craziest stories, but I love it. So I did that for many years. And then when Mark and I were building our home, I was really missing the whole piece of the real estate transaction when we were hunting for our lot, and then building and working with a builder, and then putting my design degree to work. I'm like, babe, I'm really just like missing real estate. And he's like, well, why don't you go back into it? I'm like, well, I mean, I kind of sucked at it before. I never could have it be like my full-time income. And I really I need to make money. And he's like, I think it would be different this time around. So did my research and ended up at Keller Williams. I was on a team, but I was at a brand new Keller Williams. I was one of the founding agents of the Keller Williams in my area. And it was a really great fit. Incredible culture for a very long time. Awesome people. I just sort of loved all of that. And then fast forward to COVID. March of 2020, they're like, okay, grab all the crap from your desk. And, we've talked about this on other podcasts. And they're like, go home and we'll see you in a few weeks. And I set up shop in my kitchen and I'm like, now what? I was never busier. It was so busy. It was a really busy year. Mark was in law enforcement and we had all the civil unrest in Minneapolis. So Mark was never busier in his career than that time. That was probably the busiest I ever was in my career. However, it was really isolating. And this culture that I stuck around for at Keller Williams, we had gone through a lot of ownership changes. So Keller Williams are like franchises with owners. And we had gone through several rounds of ownership changes, some of them great, some of them not so great. But I just felt like I was sort of seeing the writing on the wall. And I would describe myself as someone that's really loyal. And I kept thinking, okay, this ship's going to turn around. It's got to turn around, right? There's all these really incredible agents, then the Keller Williams culture, and everyone came from contribution and all of those things. And the ship was going down. And prior to COVID and prior to all of us getting shifted, to go work at home, I worked in the office every single day. And while I loved that, I worked my way up to sort of the top. I was on the ALC, which is the Agent Leadership Council. I was on an ALC member for 4 years. So it's the top producers in the office. And everyone came to me to ask all the questions. I was the top selling agent on the team that I was on. And I'm looking around and outside of the friendships I had made in the office. And now all of a sudden the culture changed because everybody's working from home, and slowly agents just started leaving to go to other brokerages for different reasons. And I was like, this ship feels like it's going down. And I stuck around because I thought that it would turn around. And I think many times people do that, right? You stay in one spot because it feels really comfortable and you love the people that you're in the spot with, but maybe it's not the best for your career, but you're like, well, but I like these people and it's fine. And I'll just deal with some of these things. So I finally made the tough decision. I had left the team that I was on and started my own team and stayed at the same brokerage, but then really felt there was some rub against my old team that wasn't great. And I'm like, okay, I had been thinking about making a change, but I'm like, okay, the writing's on the wall. I just need to do this. And I'd been looking around. I was in Tom Ferry coaching at the time. So looking around at a lot of people that I really respected and that were doing really good business, they were doing the same volume of business I was or more. And I'm like, okay, well, what are they doing? What brokerages are they at that would also be in my market? And so I just started calling people. I'm like, hey, Beth, how are you? Haven't seen you since the conference in July. Want to pick your brain. Why did you make the move to X, Y, and Z? And so I was kind of keeping my eye on Compass and eXp were the two that I really had my eye on. And at the end of the day, it came down. I love that Compass has the concierge thing. I think that's really cool. But the fees that I think a lot of agents pay at Compass were more than what I wanted to pay. And a lot of my business, if I had more of a solid base of like strictly like luxury business, I think that would have been more appealing. But because I'm referral, I'm like so heavily based in referrals from past clients and friends and family. Like it's not all luxury. Like I do first time home buyers, I do move up, I do luxury, I do relocation. We're doing a lot of right sizers / downsizers. So my business is a lot of everything. So I felt like the Compass model probably wasn't the best one for me. So when I was doing my research, I'm like, okay, I am 99% certain I'm going to go to eXp. And so then all of my friends around the country that had switched to eXp, I just started calling them. I'm like, okay, why did you go where you went? Because you have to like name a sponsor, like on your upline. And eXp gets a bad rap, Real gets a bad rap for being like a multi-level marketing. But okay, let's be clear. It doesn't matter if you're at Remax or Coldwell Banker or Compass or whatever. It's all a multi-level marketing company on some level. Like you are the person on the bottom and you're making money for the people above you, right? I mean, every business in the world is a multi-level marketing. That might not be packaged that way, but you're always making money for people further up the food chain than where you're at. So like once I wrap my brain around that, I'm like, okay, it didn't feel like I was going to be signing up to be like an Amway dealer, and nothing against Amway. I'm just like not that person that wants to like host a Tupperware party or host a, pampered chef party. That's not my jam. So I'm like, how can I make this like feel good for me? So I was doing my research and I would say probably, gosh, I don't even know, 2018, 2019, something like that. I had a friend that I really, really respect, and she had asked me to come and check out eXp and what it was all about. And so I'm like, okay, I will. I'm going to give it a fair shot. And I adore this person, but my introduction to eXp was terrible. I'm like, there's no way. I do not like this. This does not feel good. This does not align with me as a person. No way. So I was kind of like that negative Nelly about eXp for a long time. Fast forward, COVID happened. Everybody's locked up in their house. The culture of Keller Williams had changed because nobody could be around each other to have the culture. And it's really hard to create that kind of culture on Zoom, in my opinion. So I was like, I need to make a change. And if I'm going to make a change, I want it to be a change that's going to stick. I'm not one of those people. I don't like bouncing around. And I think bouncing around from brokerage to brokerage can really be a humongous distraction for your business. And I wanted to make the right choice just right out of the gate. So when I'm doing all my homework, I'm like, everything was pointing me back to eXp. But I'm like, okay, how can I make a decision that is going to be good for the culture of me, for me, the team? How can I get plugged in? At Keller Williams, I was like looked at as one of the experts, being on the leadership role. And so I'm like, I need to be in a place where I'm surrounded by a lot of people that know a lot more than I do. So I know a lot, but I want to be around people that know even more, right? That's where I'm going to grow. That's where I'm going to feel uncomfortable, and not necessarily uncomfortable in a position where it's hindering my career, but uncomfortable enough where it's going to push me to do bigger and greater things. So one of the best pieces of advice someone said to me, they said, who you align with at eXp will make or break your success. And I'm like, wow, that's a really powerful and interesting statement. So I just kind of like locked that away in the back of my head. I'm like, okay, interesting. So fast forward now, I am almost, this spring will be mid-year will be like my 4th year at eXp. And it's really fascinating. I've been an icon agent for the 3 years I've been at eXp. And that feels really good. I feel like I'm in a spot where I'm learning a ton, but it's interesting to see. So eXp came about because the old Keller Williams model, they took the old Keller Williams model, kind of like cherry picked the good things from it, and then started eXp. So now the new trend is that Real took the eXp model and they're like, we're going to make it better. And now they started Real. Now the new shiny object in real estate is Real. And I've seen a lot of my Tom Ferry friends, kind of the ones, some are defecting from eXp and going to Real. But these cloud-based brokerages are really kind of like where it's at. And it's really interesting when I was doing my homework, they're like, well, like, what's the benefit? Well, like cloud-based brokerages don't have brick and mortar. If you own your own office, it could be a great thing for you to move to a brokerage like eXp or Real because you already have your brick and mortar. We decided to bring our team into my house. I have a space in my house that's perfectly dedicated to be a home office that's sort of like separate from the rest of the house. And it works great. I don't have to incur any other additional expenses. But it's so interesting to see there's like so much smack talk out there right now with like eXp's better, Real's better. And, doing research for this episode, I read for hours, like all these different blogs. And of course, you read one that's, somebody had moved their license to eXp. It's going to feel really a bias towards eXp. Same things were the people that moved to Real. And I think one of the biggest things that I've noticed, and this happened at eXp, and this has been happening at eXp all along, is that as eXp has experienced incredible growth, like one of the fastest growing brokerages in the country, that they have to change the model. Like the model is not sustainable once you have so many people on board with the rev share programs and, paying out on stocks and, monthly fees. And same thing with Real. I was reading articles from a few years ago versus articles that had just come out at the end of 2024, and all the different fees and costs and programs, like they're all shifting and changing. I feel like that's a moving target, and it almost has to be able to sustain all the growth. So eXp like exploded since 2014, really, really exploded. Now we're like close to like 90,000 agents. And eXp started in 2009. Real started in 2014. And now I believe they're a little bit over 21,000 agents. So both of the brokerages are experiencing incredible growth. Both of them have like capping systems. So the cap at Real might be a little bit less than at eXp, but if you're an agent that caps every year, there might be some nuances that might make one of them cheaper for you at the end of the day once you cap versus if you don't cap. If you don't cap, Real might be a better option for you. Every brokerage offers a CRM of some sort. There's always fees that you can pay to have a CRM. I've got my own thoughts on CRMs, but that's a conversation for another day. Revenue share, eXp has 7 tiers, Real has 5. So if you're really into growth and building a downline and recruiting, eXp might be a better model for you because you're going to make a lot more money on those tiers 6 and 7 that Real doesn't have. So like there's a lot of nuances to that, but I think as Real continues to grow and as eXp continues to grow, I think they're all going to continue to change their models and make tweaks here and there. So at the end of the day, are we going to look exactly the same? Maybe, who knows? They both offer stock options, which is awesome. And from my own personal experience, at the end of my first year at eXp, I don't know, it's kind of like that tax time when all of a sudden all of your statements start coming in of all those things that you need to bring to your accountant to file your taxes. And I got a Morgan Stanley thing in the mail. I'm like, well, that's weird. I don't have any investments at Morgan Stanley. And I opened it up. And because I've been taking 5% of every commission check and buying stock at a reduction, and because I cap and all of those things, it was so incredible to see how much money was sitting in an investment account that I simply had forgotten about. It was sort of like one of those out of sight, out of mind things. And I'm like, holy crap, like there's a ton of money sitting in here. And I didn't even pay attention to it. So that's something that I really love. I love that once I cap and become an icon agent, then eXp is paying me my cap back. So, I mean, it kind of feels like it's nearly free. for me to hang my license there. Plus they're paying me stock. Plus I'm getting rev share. So it was interesting. My Keller Williams profit share, because I was at a Keller Williams office that wasn't necessarily profitable, my profit share checks were pretty slim. They would pass out like those fake checks, sort of like those Monopoly checks at our team meetings. They'd be like, oh, and you get a car and you get a car. It felt like an Oprah episode. And they would, we would be celebrating all these wins. And they're like, oh, Beth, the big joke was like, Beth loves her shoes. It's a true story. I do love my shoes. And so I would get a profit share check and it would be like for $75. And they're like, Beth can go buy a new pair of shoes this month. Yay. Woohoo. So that was great because it's money that I didn't have. It was just money for having agents come over underneath me at Keller Williams. But it was really interesting to see how noticeable it was to have rev share versus profit share at eXp. And all of a sudden I'm getting checks that are like $2,000, $2,500. And I'm like, holy shit, this is a humongous difference versus my little $75 checks I used to get at Keller Williams. It felt like night and day. I want to say that first year I was at eXp, like my rev share was like $10,000. And it was just simply, and I wasn't even trying to recruit. It was people that are like, oh, wow. It was interesting to see you make that move to eXp. Like, why did you make the move? How do I learn more? How do I sign up? So I didn't feel like I was actively recruiting. It was certainly a more passive approach to it. But that is a really big backbone of eXp and Real. And some people are in it simply to recruit. Their whole entire goal is to be able to get out of production and just recruit and live on those rev share checks. And I don't see anything wrong with that. At the end of the day, I don't want to be that agent that is, an 85-year-old agent out showing buyers at 10 o'clock on a Friday night. I don't want to be doing that. There was an agent here at a local brokerage that's, if I said the name, you would know the name immediately. It's where a lot of old timer agents are still at. And someone said, oh, she just is an agent in her mid 80s. And my friend's like, oh, she just loves selling real estate. And I'm like, I'm going to call bullshit on that. Nobody loves real estate so much that they want to be selling real estate and working with first-time home buyers when they're 85. Let's just be clear on that. I don't think that is anybody. I think that is somebody that didn't set themselves up correctly. I think that it's somebody that actually has to work. They're not working because they want to work. They are probably working because they have to work. And they did not invest in a retirement account. They didn't really have a great exit strategy. There's a reason why there's books written out there about how to sort of sell your real estate business. And there's companies out there that specialize in that. Nobody wants to be doing this when they're 85 years old and working with first-time home buyers. I'll go argue and die on that hill. So yeah, being a recruiter and recruiting agents and really providing value, that can be an incredible retirement program. I think, correct me if I'm wrong. I would love to get feedback on this episode. eXp, you can just get out of production and you don't have to sell houses anymore. And you can just recruit people to eXp. From my research with Real, I believe you still have to be producing at some level. You have to be bringing in some company dollars in order to still be capitalizing on your rev share. But there's a lot of different little nuances. And, there's plenty of non-producers at every brokerage across the country, right? The average agent in the country sells 3 to 4 houses a year. So are you doing your homework? Are you going to a place that aligns with what you're trying to accomplish in real estate? Are you trying to grow your business? Well, are you going to sign up under somebody at Real or eXp that is also growing their business or has already grown their business? They already have a proven track record. Those are all the things to really be mindful about. I think one thing that was so weird when I moved to eXp was the little cloud-based virtual world. I was like, what the fuck? Like creating an avatar of myself. Like I've never I've never been like a video gamer, like not my thing. It wasn't my generation. Literally when I was online dating before I met Mark, I was like, when I met him, I'm like, please tell me you're not a gamer. It's not my jam. I don't want to be, like laying in bed and you're just playing, video games 12 hours a night. It's not my thing. So all of a sudden I joined a brokerage that's got this virtual world and I'm like creating an avatar and picking out clothes for my avatar. I'm like, seriously, what the actual fuck? It's so weird. However, it's so freaking cool. And once I figured out how to do it, and thankfully Carrie has like just jumped on that all over it. It is so easy to navigate. Like once you figure it out, like talking to a live person, it's so weird. So like you're talking, like you're actually having a conversation. It's not like a phone conversation. You're having a conversation through the computer. My avatar is talking to let's say my broker's avatar, for instance. And it's weird and it's awesome. You can almost get someone on demand at any time. To talk about a paycheck, to talk about marketing, to talk about educational things. It's really freaking cool. It's my understanding that Real just has an app and like email, like you're just emailing someone. I believe that we have multiple brokers in Minnesota, which is great. We have approximately 2,000 employees with eXp. So like obviously agents aren't employees. We're all like independent contractors, but actual employees that you can reach out to. So it averages about 41 employees per agent at eXp. And just for my research, please correct me if I'm wrong, someone. It's about 65 agents per one employee at Real. So I feel like we get really incredible service. That was really something I was concerned about losing. I had an incredible gal that sort of ran our office at Keller Williams, and I would just go into Kelly's office. I'm like, hey, Kelly, I have questions about X, Y, or Z. Like, what resources can you point me to? Or, this check seems like blah, 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 and she would take care of it right away. And so I was worried that moving to a cloud-based brokerage and not having like that person that I could just like see the whites of their eyes and like have a conversation, like, how is this going to be? Am I going to feel like I have a harder time getting questions answered? Or like, what if I'm in a pinch and I need an answer right away? Well, that hasn't been an issue at all. Actually, I'm probably getting answers faster and I don't have to walk down the hall and go to somebody's office. I literally just log into the computer and be like, okay, hey, Mickey, I've got a question about this. And what about this? And she's like, oh yeah, here you go. So that overall has been a huge pleasant surprise. So like you all know I'm at eXp Realty and it's been a really, really incredible fit. One of the things I was really mindful about though is I picked a group to align with that had local presence where I live. And I love that because there's so many resources. So of course I have resources on a national level because of our upline, and they're a really powerful group of people, a lot of Tom Ferry people. And I feel like no matter if you're at Real or eXp, if you've aligned with a bunch of Tom Ferry folks, I feel like you can't really go wrong because they're people that just sort of operate their business on a higher playing level. But I love that there's such a huge local presence here. And while these other agents are technically my competition, like I'm viewing it that like our collaboration is more important than the competition, and the collaboration is winning over the competition. And right now, we have a deal closing, actually one closing today and one closing tomorrow. And they're both with eXp business partners. And both of the deals have been an absolute dream. And how great is that? Is that I get to work with someone that knows their shit. They're absolute professionals and they really operate on a high level. And then we're creating 2 more transactions for each of those. So technically like 4 pieces of business for our power in our numbers in our group. And like, holy cow, I would love to do business with these people every single day and can't wait to do it again sometime soon. Another interesting thing is I talked to a girlfriend that her philosophy when she moved over to eXp was she didn't want to feel like she was competing against agents in her own area. So she signed up under someone at eXp that was across the country. And she said now in retrospect, she goes, I love this person that I signed up under and they provide a ton of value. She goes, now I feel like I'm on an island in my own town because I have no like local boots on the ground people that I can collaborate with. And I have to get on an airplane or a Zoom call in order to interact and connect with all these people that I signed up under. So that's another thing that I am super thankful for, is that I have this humongous local community of hundreds of agents that are just totally coming from, they're like all about collaboration. I've had a couple of really weird scenarios. I feel like the longer you're in the business, the more weird the scenarios are that come up. And I've had a couple of weird ones lately. And there's a couple of people that have been in the business for a really long time that I really respect. And I call and be like, hey, got another weirdo scenario here. Can I run this up the tree with you? Yeah, sure. And then we sort of just like spitball, collaborate, have a little think tank situation. And all of a sudden I'm like, okay, yep. Got my answer. Thank you so much for your time. And holy shit, has that been really, really invaluable to my business. So it's interesting. I am really proud of the group that I aligned with here in Minnesota. It's been a game changer. And a couple of stats that are my group here locally, we did over $2 billion in real estate sales. We're in Minnesota. We're in the middle, and people think that this is like flyover country and like this is podunk and we all live on farms. We did $2 billion in real estate transactions in 2024 in a year where sales were down the lowest they had been since 1995. I mean, this episode is coming out in January of 2025. So in a year when people had like the worst years they've had since the 90s, our group did $2 billion in business, and the average agent sold over I think it was 9.1 houses. And this is just here in our Minnesota market. So it's incredible how many agents have capped and hit that icon status. And the group just keeps growing exponentially. And another stat that was really incredible is that 9.2 agents return to eXp every single day. I was like, that's interesting. So people are like, oh, I see a shiny little object. I'm going to leave eXp and go to XYZ, maybe Real, maybe other brokerages. I don't know. But then they get there and they're like, oh, shoot, the grass isn't greener like I had hoped. And so 9.2 agents every single day are returning to eXp. So I feel like we're onto something pretty special around here. If you have questions about eXp, I would love to chat with you. And if I didn't get any of those stats right on Real, I would love to be proved wrong. It was really felt like a moving target, like even looking up stats on eXp versus Real, just because they all keep sort of changing and tweaking the models to sustain all the growth that both are experiencing. So is one better than the other? I would say it depends. It depends on what you're looking to do. Are you hoping to get out of production? Are you hoping to be a big producer and grow your business? Are you hoping to build a team? Are you hoping to have a lot of collaboration in the community where you live? Is profit share important to you? Or not profit share, revenue share important to you? Is stock options important to you? Like really what's important to you at the end of the day? Like I would say determine what's your important, maybe top 5 list for things in a brokerage, and then go do your homework. Start calling really incredible agents that you admire and you respect their business model, and just start asking them, start picking their brain, because I feel like that's going to give you a lot of information to be able to make a great decision that works great for you and your business. So no matter which way you lean, I think both business models are actually pretty amazing, but I'm so happy with the one I'm at. So if you ever want to talk about eXp or what that could look like for you and your business and how you could be part of a really incredible growing group here in the Twin Cities and be part of my network even anywhere in the country, I would love to connect. So until next time, bus bench babes, keep your face off a bus bench and keep being the badass boss babes that you are.
Okay, girls. Are you feeling as inspired as we are? We're over here cheering you on because you just finished another episode of the Girl, Get Your Face Off a Bus Bench podcast.
If you want more, head over to girlgetyourfaceoffabusbench.com for show notes and more episodes. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. They mean the world to us, and they're what keep us going.
Girl, thanks for being here.